when you're discussing this, you've got to take your own team out of it. And I know that's difficult to do because people are attached to Collingwood and they're attached to Maynard. They want to support him. But you've got to think of the greater issue. And the head trauma is prevalent at the moment. It's a hotbed right now for the AFL. And we'll do this properly after 7, but I'm not convinced that Michael Chriso, has any other option but to send it to the tribunal. Now, they may fight it, or they will fight it, and possibly get off. They may not get off. They may have to go to appeal, similar to Toby Bedford. But I don't know if Chriso has many other options, Cornsey.
No, and I agree with you. I think that's the way that it will land, and it's probably the way that it should land, because then you can get Brayden up there and he can argue his case with what was going through his mind at the time. But from me, it's pretty clear cut. He's left the ground before the kick was had, and he's had to turn. He can't disappear, and unfortunately, through the momentum of both players, that was the outcome. But we'll wait and see. You'd expect that decision to be handed down shortly, but 3+ straight to the tribunal, and then it's up to Collingwood to try and get him off.
Well, I'm having a dig at the AFL tribunal, all encompassing, because none of us have a blue clue as to where this sits today.
Blue clue.
Yeah, we've got no idea, have we? We've got no idea. We've absolutely lost the handle on what is inside the flags in terms of the laws of the game. How can every person who gave commentary last night have grey area in the discussion? We should absolutely know what's right and wrong. I feel for the players, I do. I feel for Brayden Maynard, who thinks he's in the clear today, and he'll be shocked if he's suspended. The coaches have had their opinions. Craig McRae's asked his thoughts. He's got no idea. You got Simon Goodwin. Simon Goodwin said this last night in the post-match when he was asked, and it was a little bit prickly in the press conference. So can I just have a little follow-up dig? Can I have a follow-up dig?
Yeah, but can I just pull Simon Goodwin up on that? He left a lot of context out of that. He said he jumped off the ground and knocked a guy out, and that's it. Well, that's not as simple as it was. He jumped off the ground to try and smother the ball. When he's in mid-air after the ball's gone, he turns and braces. So it wasn't as if it was a Jordan De Goey style violent act from earlier on in the year. There's
some sugar there, yeah. which then leads me to the second part of the dig, right? Which is I find a little bit humorous.
Jacob Van Moroni got McStay, who looked like with a high elbow. I mean, did you see it? And if so, what did you make of it? Any concerns there?
I haven't really seen too much of it, but I'm pretty sure McStay stayed on the ground.
I haven't seen that one. I can run you through the other one for minutes. but this one, no, I did. Oh, you know what? I didn't happen to catch that
and
one.
He came back on the ground. So
he was on the ground.
All right.
Yeah.
So Van Rooyen's, that's the other point. Van Rooyen's in trouble as well.
Come on, goody.
He won't be playing in their next game, unfortunately, and it's lucky that McStay did go off but came back on.
I know we'll talk about the game later. That's a huge problem now. That's another key member of the forward line that'll be absent.
So what the flow-on effect is that Brodie Grundy probably has to play, and I got some thoughts on that. How did you see it?
I was in awe of Collingwood's back six last night. I thought that's the best that I'd seen them play for some time. I can't wait to get to some vision later on today and just see what changed. What was the subtle differences that they've made through the last fortnight? Is it just individual performance of a few? Was it just Darcy Moore being unbelievable? Isaac Quainer being just undefeatable, really. He was just bulletproof back there, and they just look so calm and comfortable all night. I haven't seen them as settled as that. They were under siege, 69 inside 50s, Melbourne had, for only 7 goals. So I look at that and I think we can always take the Melbourne angle and we can hammer them for not having this and not having that. But they just got cold beaten last night. And I think that it was the one area in Collingwood's game that we were all concerned about, that they'd leaked some easy scores in the previous 6 weeks. But I think when you see that performance, they've got some work to do. It wasn't the complete performance by Collingwood by any stretch. But to see what their back six was able to do under genuine heat, I thought was the most pleasing.
Yeah, this is Craig McRae, lauded his defenders after the game, and he spoke about all the names that you mentioned. The fact that Darcy Moore coming in allows Murphy to play his best role, allows Quaynor to play his best role. Jeremy Howe was intercepting the ball. How much of Melbourne played into that, though? Like, at what point do you realise the long, slow, high ball inside 50 that goes 40 metres in the air is not working? Like, how many times did we see that, Kingy? Like, at what point? And this is the issue for Melbourne for years that we've been discussing, and they won a premiership, and that was, largely from some stoppage dominance and guys getting hot at the right time, but they could not get a forward winner last night. And they weren't helped by the entries and how slow and high and how easy they were to defend.
So how honest do you want to be? I mean, to me, Smith poses no real threat, and McDonald first game back, so it's hard to be overly critical of him. But didn't really look like doing anything meaningful.
Didn't have his
in
movement.
The game.
Yeah, look to me to be struggling to move, and they will say, well, we didn't have a lot of other options there. But
So do you blame the target or do you blame the entry?
Well, there's a whole lot in it. You got to give credit to Collingwood's ability to slow and delay the ball going in. So there was no fast play. Whereas on the flip side, Collingwood's entries were low and 37, but a lot of them were chaotic and fast and overlap. But that was off the back of, at times, Melbourne's shallow entries. Like, if you're trying to launch the ball behind centre going inside 50, that's just plays so well into Collingwood's hands. It's exactly what they want, and they get the rebound game going from that. So credit to them, and you've lauded their defence. Terrific, slowing the ball down. But then Melbourne they just played safe. They played far too safe, and you can't play safe against this side who work harder back than any team in the game. And when you've got those interceptors there, bringing the ball to ground or marking it, good night. So the lack of connection from Melbourne is the big issue. Without being, too critical of their performance, because they would say, "Oh, hang on, if 4-7 is 7-4, we win."
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily right because I think they banked the game. Collingwood play the scoreboard, so when they dictate terms early and lead by 20 points, it's a different game. So I don't think it's simplistic as that. They've got an answer, and they refuse to look at it. The best that Melbourne's forward line has looked for the year is when Christian Petrarca is inside the forward 50 against St Kilda in round 17. He was there. They goaled 1 in every 4 entries. He was there 70% of the time in that game. The next week against Brisbane Lions, they goaled 1 in every 3, 16 of 51, and he was there almost 60% of the time. Last night they went 1 in 10. Petrarca, in my opinion, if they are to correct this year, they've got other players that can play his midfield role. He had 4 possessions.
So they'll say Brayshaw knocked out.
Understand that.
Made us play.
What was the biggest
Petrarca
problem last
on
night?
ball. Yeah, it was the forward connection.
Couldn't score.
I wonder, and it hasn't worked probably to the point, but like Gawn's performance was huge. And when and a couple of times he marked the ball in the front half of the ground, not playing as a forward, playing as a ruck. But do you have to go, okay, McDonald's probably not the answer. He got tag teamed by Cox and Cameron last night. Do we need the option to put Gawn forward if it's not working, to at least provide an aerial threat? And to do that, you need to play Grundy, who can hold up in the ruck. So,
hold up?
Yeah, I think he can hold up in the ruck, can't he?
Does hold up do it for you?
Well, Cameron and Cox just held up last night.
So you're going to give up the reason that they were in the game last night. You're giving up Gawn. He was the man. He was best on ground last night, Gawn. So he's the reason, as a ruckman, that they were able to come back and get within 7 points.
Yeah, but
you're going to take him out of there and put him somewhere else and bank on a guy that you've lost complete faith in over the previous 6 weeks to come in and play Gawn's role.
I've lost complete faith in him to play as a forward, not as a ruck. You needed that option.
He can't do that. He can't do what Max did last night.
No one can.
He hasn't got that scope.
No one can. But what was the problem for them? Was that there was no one that looked like winning a contest forward of the ball. No one.
But you can't take Max away from the contest, though.
Well, I think you need the option to be able to do that.
Haven't we seen Max forward?
Yeah.
Max is not the same player as a forward.
No, he's not. I'm not suggesting that. But what other options do they have? What are you going to go with?
Petrarca, natural forwards. Get guys down there that can actually move and create like natural forwards.
See, I thought Petrarca's second half, he looked like the one that was going to get them back into it, playing as a pure midfielder.
But in the end, he's had half a dozen score involvements. I mean, you got to win these games. You got to win them. You got to go out and win them. You can't. You're not there to just sort of hold sway and all this sort of stuff. You got to go and win them. Collingwood went for the jugular early. I thought. I know we'll skew away a little bit. I thought the first centre bounce was to me the beacon for the night.
It's a big jump from Cox.
Mason Cox comes in and drives his knee into Max Gawn. Gawn hits the deck hard. And I reckon every Collingwood player goes, oof, wow, we're on here. This is on. I've got no doubt that they were sooled up in the rooms. Hey, make a statement early, shop early. The old Charlie Sutton, and away Collingwood went, and they whacked Melbourne between the eyes, and it was catch up football from that moment onwards. And I thought the move of throwing Cox in there, which was a bit of a shock because Cameron normally just starts in the ruck. I'm not sure whether you made anything of that or not.
Well, no, he said after the game, Craig McRae, that Cameron was a bit ill going in, and there was actually some thought that Noble may replace him before the start of the bounce. So I can only assume that decision was made because Cameron wasn't at his absolute best and feeling his best. But you're right, I was shocked, and he rucked the first 8 minutes, Cox, before he came off. The first 8 minutes he went. And, in the end, Gawn wore them both down, didn't he? But I don't know, we can debate the forward line, Kingy, and whether you overreact just to one performance. But McDonald, nothing. Van Rooyen, nothing, and probably won't play. So he's going to be out of the side. Fritsch, nothing. Personnel-wise, these fans, is it worth having a look at Grundy? Kingy says no. I think to have the option to push Max Gawn forward would be something nice for the Melbourne coaches to be able to do, and they can't do that.
How many goals? It's a good chat.
Yeah.
Give us a call and give us your opinion. But if you put Grundy into the ruck and Max forward, what's the net? What do you think the net result is? Say, is it going to have a 3-goal swing?
Well, they only needed 7 points. They only needed 7 points.
Yeah, but you're giving up a lot of opportunity. If you're taking Max out of that midfield, you're not getting 69 inside 50s. You're just not. You're not dictating terms of clearance. You're not winning contests because Max ain't there.
Tactically, Nick Dacos spoke at halftime to Channel 7. He said they really wanted to keep the ball moving off the line to sort of alleviate the influence that Lever and May could have behind the ball, and I thought they did that incredibly well. But they just, I don't know, you can be as analytical as you like. They just work harder than any team, Collingwood. When the ball is on the ground in their back 50, you watch how many times they outnumber the opposition, and then they go from there. So it was their work rate last night on the biggest stage. It's what you do your pre-season for. And just my view from the couch at home, it just looked like they worked harder for the majority of that game.
They made the right call. Dropping John Noble was the 100% right call.
I think it was.
When you look at Hoskin Elliott going to half, I thought that's the best game I've seen him play. Jason Dunstall was talking about him ad nauseum last night. He was absolutely terrific. They got full-toed odds out of him. And that back line has never looked as settled. And I also think Bobby Hill's game was refreshing to see him back himself like that. McCreary's speed is important. They just outran them. They were far too quick for the halfback flanker types of the Demons. They were exposed time and time again, particularly in the first 40 minutes when the game was at its hottest.
Yeah, I wouldn't have played Cox. I said that before the game, and I thought that was, at the time, that was my belief. But in the end, they got the selection spot on. And you've got to hand it to them. They see everything behind the scenes and all of that, and we get a view on once a week from our position. So they made the right call on that. And when you compare Hill's performance to Pickett in the same role, Pickett had his opportunities, squandered them. Hill had his opportunities, same amount of disposals, 13 touches each. Bobby Hill kicks 3-1, Pickett kicks 1-3. That's the difference in the game as well. And
if Bailey Fritsch knocks that one through, that he actually kicked out of bounds on the full, I couldn't believe he almost had a freshie. If he kicks that, who knows? Who knows what it was? There's a lot to like from both parties, and they're opposing methods, if you like. The texters are spot on. 071's just texted in that Crisp played really well. I thought that was a terrific game from Crisp. He was first person to leave the traffic every time and provide overlap and defensive support if needed. I thought Mitchell, and I've been critical of Mitchell through the course of the year, I thought some of his clearance work when the game was really in the balance in that third term was terrific.
All right, you can have your say on that. 1300 736 736. Just finally, do they meet again, Kingy? That for me, they're the best two teams in it. Having said that, Brisbane's path to the grand final is easier now. So Melbourne, and if it's Carlton next week, look out, because that'll be on. But then
they meet again.
Then you've got to go to the Gabba. Can Melbourne get on a run, and do these two teams meet in a grand final again?
Oh, of course they can. Of course they can. They can do it. I mean, there's a lot to like about that performance. Not just numbers, but the way they play is so honest. you would think that they would be able to gather and go again. You hear Max Gawn after the game say, you know what, it was a classic way for Melbourne to lose. 69 inside 50s. We win clearance, we win contests, we win all the things they value they won. They just didn't get it on the scoreboard. It's too simplistic to say, oh, it'll correct itself. You've got to do more than that. But no, I could see, I think that I would think they'd win next week. You know,
So would I.
And then you see them potentially go to Brisbane or go to Port Adelaide.
Yep.
Gee whiz, what a brilliant final that'll be.
That'll be huge. Who is under a little bit of pressure as we get to the business end of the season? I'll start, Kingy. I'm going to go with Dane Zorko. Last chance for Dane to win a premiership. I would have thought 34 years of age, 3-6 in his 9 finals, 11 touches against Melbourne in last year's prelim, and his disciplinary record isn't that great. I reckon he's one that Port Adelaide could identify to try and get under the skin of, and in big moments before when he's been under pressure, he hasn't handled that the best, and some of those times were as a captain, and his leadership at times has been questionable. Excellent footballer, can be a real difference maker for them with the way that he uses the football, but like Dangerfield last year, when you get to that time of your career and you've had so many opportunities, you need to make the most of them. So I think he needs to be impactful for the Lions when they play tomorrow night. Who's in the gun from you?
I like it. I'm putting a group in the gun.
Group?
I'm putting the Port Adelaide back 6 in the gun. This is a known issue. This is has not snuck up on Ken Hinkley. He's known that all year. Alir loses 27% of his one-on-ones, which is poorer than the AFL average. Mackenzie close to 36%, really poor in one-on-ones. Burton 45%, one in every second one-on-one he's getting rolled. And Bergman, just a younger player, but he's still at 32%. So the AFL average is about 25. So as a team, they are the worst back 6 in one-on-ones. So they will, if they do not put up a strong and bold showing against the Brisbane Lions, who are stacked forward of centre,
Absolutely stacked.
The question will be, how do you not address this issue for a 24 rounds through a 24-round season?
Is it personnel? What does he have to address the issue with?
Well, you've got to find a way.
Who?
There's no point just saying, "Oh, this is a problem. We've got a problem down here. We're not doing anything about it."
I understand that, but when you are hamstrung with what you've got, I mean, there's not much to go to. Do you put?
Mate, I saw the Eagles win a flag with the Eagles web. They lost a centre half back and a full back in season.
They have made it to a top 4 position. So I'm with you. It's been an issue.
Doesn't sound like you're with me.
No, I've spoken about this repeatedly, but I think it's more personnel than system.
So what have they tried? Tell me what they've tried then.
They haven't been able to try anything because of the
What do
lack
you mean
of.
they haven't
They've
been able
got
to try anything?
Mackenzie, who's almost their most.
Have we had a look at
important
Ollie
player.
Lord at fullback?
You want to put
Have we had a
Ollie?
look
You
at-
want to put Ollie Lord? They need him.
I
forward.
saw John
They got-
Long. I saw
They need
John
him
Long,
forward,
like-
Kingy. They got no
Yeah, but
Charlie
the-
Dixon. You put him back. Who are you going to put forward?
Not to. At any stage of the year, did they look at him at fullback?
Well,
at any stage
it's
of the
been
year,
difficult
24 weeks.
When Dixon's been on one leg.
telling
and
me Lord's
Marshall's
never been
missed
available?
Marshall's missed. No, Lord's been available, but they've
they
needed.
looked at it?
They've needed him to play forward.
But not when Dixon's
And why
been
would
there.
you? Why would you look at it when you've won 13 in a row?
Because you've got Mackenzie, who's getting beaten well above AFL average. You've got Alir, who's your prime fullback, getting beaten above AFL average. You've got Burton, who gets beaten every time down there. You have to have a look at something. You can't just walk into a final series with this issue still on the desk, surely.
Yeah, I think it's more personnel than what you're saying.
But you haven't tried
That's
anything.
why they're going to pay big money for Radigalia. That's why they're going to try and get Zirk Thatcher. That's why
Would
they're
you
going
have
to try
had a look
Grundy.
at? Would you have had a look at a Finn Layson down back for a 4-week block?
Well, no.
Would you have had a look?
Well, no, because they've needed him as a second ruck and forward. He's kicked their most goals.
But what's going to hurt you more? What's going to hurt you more this week?
I
What,
think
what,
we've
what will be
seen-
the?
Well, I don't know. Well, we saw from Melbourne, you actually have to score to win. So,
Okay, all right.
I'll-
I'll look forward to seeing the score to win profile on Saturday night.
Okay, we will. But once again, if it goes the wrong way, it'll be a personnel issue. It won't be, I don't think, a system issue. Kingy, what's on your agenda?
On my agenda, well, I just want to know Asava Radigalia. Now, there's offers going everywhere for Asava. What's his actual value? What's he worth? Because you're my contract man. You're the guy I listen to when this sort of stuff happens.
So money wise or
Money-wise,
trade
yeah.
value? Okay,
Money,
I'll
tenure.
I'll give you what his contract should be. He is the average AFL footballer, I would have thought, with all due respect. So I would think that is $450, but
Yes.
you get a little bit of extra on that because you're moving states and clearly
The leaving tax.
there's a lot of demand for him, and we saw the ridiculous offer reportedly from Hawthorn. So I think he's a $500,000 player.
So what do Port Adelaide need to do to get him?
Well, he's already said he's going there, so I'm assuming they've agreed to terms. So
Agreed to terms? Done.
I would have thought, well, if you're leaving and you're going to move interstate and you join the club, you'd want to know what they're going to pay you. So I would think the contract is there. He's agreed to it. I would think it's pretty significant. I think it's probably a 6.
How many years?
I think there'd be a 6 in front of it for 5 years. I would have thought, which is
You
which
happy
is,
with that?
No, I'm not. No, it's too much. It's too long and it's too much. Go and draft one for goodness sake. Like we just spoke to Jack Buckley. He's turned into one of the league's best defenders. Like go and find a Jack Buckley.
Your player management company
Would go under, would it?
Oh,
No,
you would find it very hard to get a player to sign with
No,
you.
I love it from the managers. Happy days to you. If you can stitch your club up like McLean's done at Sydney for 4 years, or who was the other one? Bailey Williams at the Dogs got 4 years. Like, well done to the manager. You got to say, tip your cap. Outstanding management. But the clubs are ridiculous with what they are doing. Who's under the pump this September, Kingy? I wrote about this in the Age yesterday. Have you got a person in mind that you think needs a? And clearly, it's a big September for Hinkley and Fagan. There's no doubt about that. Those two are under significant pressure to deliver on what is good home and away records, but haven't parlayed that into final success yet. So there's two obvious ones. But is there anyone you think's under the pump?
You probably have to throw Goodwin in there now, don't you? I mean, with this list, I mean, we talk a lot about Beveridge and what the Dogs have had at their disposal, but if Simon were to bow out again in straight sets, gee, the heat had come, and it's been a pretty hotbed anyway through the course of this year for him personally, rightly or wrongly. So from a coaching point of view, it's always a cauldron, isn't it? There's never a casual moment. From a playing point of view, it's a little bit more difficult. The leadership, you would say, at Brisbane, whether that's the top 3, 4, 5 players, they just need to make this campaign a success.
Yep. All right. Have you say, is there one person you think's under the pump? I think Jack still needs a big game for the Saints as skipper. I think his form this year has been down, and one of the few players that hasn't improved under Ross Lyon. So he's one. I mentioned Zorko and big Harry Mackay. You'd love to see him stand up and produce a performance that is worthy of the contract that he is being paid. What else is on your agenda?
You're backing over an old wound here. I'm pretty keen on your first one there. I like this.
No, we'll get to that.
I just want to get your late thoughts on the last 3 finals to come, because we just got a taste of how good September action is again. I think we forget how life and death every contest is, and every ball that goes inside 50 is you're on the edge of your seat. Mm-hmm. It went all night last night. I mean, there was a cracking start to a final series in really difficult conditions. It'll be the same again tonight. But what are your expectations, Carlton and Sydney?
It'll just be on. Can Sydney cope with the contest? That'll be it. When they've lost, they haven't been able to cope with clearance and contest for whatever reason. So can they match the Blues in that area?
I'm just got a sort of a little stone in the shoe that can Sydney find a way to kick through them? Can Sydney find a way to use the expanses of the MCG like they have in the past? Every now and then they come to the MCG and they put in a performance. You go, wow, where was that?
Can you just duck your head out of the Kogan Money Credit Studios and tell me what the weather's doing?
It'll be cold. It'll be 10 degrees and it'll be
counter to that.
A little bit of precipitation.
They're tall, aren't they, as well?
Yeah.
The Blues as well. They're tall, so the risk...
They just win, don't they?
I think so. I think they just win.
Yeah.
I think
What
Brisbane
about tomorrow?
win. No, I think they do it
St Kilda?
reasonably comfortably. I would have thought the Giants, but see if Ross has got anything up his bag of tricks to make it... I mean, they'll make it difficult to score, but just think if the Giants can get it on the outside, they can expose the Saints there through a lack of speed. And I just back in the contested nature of the Giants on-ball division and the spread that they'll provide over the Saints. And there's got a couple of match winners that the Saints don't have.
Well, their senior core players are playing great footy. You know, Whitfield, Ward, Canelio's having a great patch that's going largely unrecognised, and you just think Brisbane win? Or is this a bit of a reverse psychology from you?
No, I think they haven't been beaten there all year, and they've got a stacked lineup. So I think it's a very difficult task to go up to Brisbane and win. That's for any team. Just wondering about the Richmond fans. They were very happy for Damien Hardwick to find a new home, and it was great. Send him off. Well done. He's done. He's cooked. Happy days. Give him a pat on the back. Are they feeling that way if he starts to take some key Richmond people? So he's already taken your pit crew man, the analyst, the best analyst.
Hill.
Yeah, he's gone. So that's going to hurt. Now
One of the smartest men in football.
I've seen him spotted exclusively from Mitch Cleary with Dustin Martin. Now, that may just be a catch-up, old friends catching up on the Gold Coast. But if he starts to take more people from Richmond, are the Richmond fans going to be happy about him breaking a contract that was until the end of last year, leaving, getting paid out, coaching a rival, and taking their best players? I just wanted to put that on the agenda
I'm
as
yet
well.
to meet one that is unhappy with him.
Okay,
You keep,
well,
you keep telling me everyone's unhappy.
Yeah, what do you think he gets Martin? Do you think they'll be happy about that?
Well, I don't know what more Dustin Martin or Damien Hardwick could have done for the Richmond Football Club.
No, I get that, but it's
So
about,
why wouldn't you be happy
it's
for
about
them to
the now,
explore?
not about the past.
But who's going to be really disappointed at Richmond if Dustin decides, you know what, I need a change, I need a new environment, I've got an opportunity to go up north, the money's right, let's get the deal done. I don't think anyone's going to be really disappointed with that.
Okay, I'm just.
You keep telling me they are.
Well,
Who's disappointed?
I can't believe they're not disappointed. You had a premiership
Richmond
coach
fans.
under contract. You don't even have a replacement for him. He's coaching a rival, and then he's taking your best people
He's
from
done
behind the scenes
everything he
and
could do.
trying to get your best players. It's just.
He's done everything he could do
All right.
with that football club.
All right,
And
20
don't worry, your mob made a phone call too, I reckon, as well, to find
Okay,
out
all right.
whether he was. I want to hear from the Richmond fans because you've banged on about this.
Yep.
And I'm yet to hear of one Richmond fan say to me, you know what, I am disappointed.
Because their head is in the sand and they're going.
Their head's in the
Yeah,
sand.
they're going. They're not
Now you're giving it to 'em.
understanding the impact that this is going to have on
So
their
they
football
upset or not?
club.
Or are
Well,
they head in the sand?
Well, both. Because
You go-
they've given every draft pick they've possibly got because Hardwick
due
wanted to
respect.
top up and go again. And now all the best people, including the coach, are gone.